Hello, everyone. Russ Scheider from Clear Vision Coaching. I'd like to address a question that comes up over and over and over to me from our coaching students and people that I mentor and just people that I help with information about getting into the business of flipping houses or doing speculative building or, a lot of the real estate investment things that we do. And that is the question of what if a house is in such bad repair that it needs to be torn down and we're essentially just buying the lot? Then how do we value that? What can we pay for that? And I see tons and tons of errors on this because there's not a lot of education out there about it. There's a lot of education about wholesaling, flipping houses, holding rental properties, but how to value vacant land in what I call an infill situation. Infill meaning that we're in a town. I picked my hometown, um, and we're in a neighborhood and we find a house and the seller needs to sell it, and we evaluate the house and say, you know what, the highest and best use of this property would be to tear the house down and start over. So how do you value that? What can we pay for that? So I'm going to use some comparable values. I'm recording this on April 30th of 2020, so these are very recent, sold in April of 2020, sold in December of 2019. They're pretty recent comps. So looking at these comps in this particular neighborhood, an infill speculative build or infill development makes a lot of sense because we have a high price per square foot. I'm going to show you an Excel spreadsheet in just a second that will explain that a lot better. So this one sold for $299,000. It's 924 square feet. My math skills are not that great, but that's almost $300 a square foot. And then we look at this guy over here, sold for 225. It's over 1,000, almost 1,100 square feet. So again, my basic math skills tell me that was $218 a square foot. So 300 a square foot, 218 a square foot. This guy, I'm going to need a calculator, so forgive me while I skip to the calculator. So we do 1785 square feet divided by 422,500 to find our price per square foot. But here's one I can almost do in my head. Say it's almost 1,000 square feet and it sold for 260. That's how much per square foot? $260 a square foot, more or less. So we're 300, 218, 260. So let's just say this neighborhood, 260, 218, and let's say it's worth $230 a square foot, just as a general rule. So let me go to my little simple, and I am not an Excel wizard. I use it as a tool, kind of like my calculator. So land value for infill properties. So I'm going to say the average house size in that neighborhood is 1,500 square feet. It may even be a little bit smaller. And I'm going to make it smaller. I'm going to make it 1,250. So that's the average house size in the neighborhood that we're evaluating. And what was our average square foot price? This is the market value retail price. I said 235. So a 1,250 square foot house is worth 293. I'm going to go back, switch screens again, and so I think that's a pretty fair appraisal. And with any of my videos, anything I share, please disagree with me if you think I'm wrong. That's how I learn, and that's how I get better. So at $293,000, that's our market value. So we're going to build a house that's that size of the neighborhood. And we're probably going to have to spend more than $100 a square foot. We're going to have to kind of pretty it up, but we can build that house for about $150 a square foot. So here's what happens. I'm going to slow down now. So what I've done is I've evaluated the neighborhood. So the average house size in the neighborhood, I've decided was 1,250 square feet. You can put that in a spreadsheet and algorithm it out, amalgamize it, and multiply an average and median and everything you want to come up with. I just kind of eyeballed it and said it's a 1,250 square foot house at $235 a square foot, and we could debate about that too. But basically, you're looking at a $293,000, 750 house. So if we're going to build that, then I'm saying our construction cost for the quality of construction that we're going to need to get that, I mean, that's a pretty high square foot price by our local standards. We're going to have to spend some money. We can't build a vinyl siding tract house. We're going to have to spend $150 a square foot. So slow down a little bit. So a lead comes in, someone's inherited a house, they have bad tenants, whatever their motivation is. They have a house in this Magnolia neighborhood that I'm evaluating. And they say, you know, nobody's lived there for a while. The tenants were bad. We inherited the house from my parents who had bad tenants and they didn't manage it. And now it's full of termites and mold and water damage. And so somebody from my team goes out and looks at the house and decides this house needs to be torn down. It's not even worth, the bones aren't even good enough to fix this house. So we say, okay, well, if we tear it down, then our demolition cost is $10 a square foot. So for $12,500, I can tear the house down and properly dispose of all the materials. I give the example, 6, 7 years ago, I could load up my pickup truck with debris from a project, take it to the local, used to call it a landfill, now it's called a recycling center, and they charge me $65 for a dump. It is now $135 for a pickup load of refuse. So you can multiply that out and imagine what it costs to dispose of an entire house. So it's not just a matter of tearing it down, it's a matter of disposing of the materials in a proper way. So we look at construction cost, which is the sticks and bricks to build a house, of $187,000 to build that kind of quality in that neighborhood. We have a demo cost where we had to tear the old house down. We have something called other costs of 15%. Now, those other costs are, if we borrow the money, we need to pay some interest. There's some closing costs that we have to pay when we buy, closing costs when we sell, real estate commissions when we sell, probably not when we buy, because we buy mostly off market, but real estate commissions. So 15%, I think, is pretty conservative for other costs. We have utilities, we have water, we have electricity, we have things like that that are outside of the construction or demolition costs. Remember, we already covered construction costs and demolition costs. These are what I call other costs, costs of the deal. So the total construction cost is $230,000. We want to make 20%. And again, if you feel like that's too much or too little, let me know. But in business, if we can cover our cost and make 20%, that keeps a healthy business going. Because then that is just the fixed cost of this individual project. It doesn't cover, I take it back, that's the variable cost of this individual project. It doesn't cover the fixed cost or the overhead. So our overhead has to come out of that 20%. As far as marketing, administration, if we have an office space, whatever we're paying for in fixed cost comes out of that. So our total profit is $46,000, which is not an outrageous fortune for the amount of risk that we're taking here. So the total project cost is $276,000. Agree or disagree? Remember, construction costs, this is what it costs to build that really nice house that we're going to sell. Demolition cost, we're getting rid of the old house that was already there. Other costs, this is interest, commissions, carrying costs. And I would also say there's a little gotcha in there. Total construction cost plus our profit gives us a total. And then we established a market value up here, right, of if we build a 1,250 square foot house, it should sell for $235 a square foot at a market value of $293,750. I've covered all of our costs. So there's our market value. And so the land acquisition cost, I can pay $17,750 for the house and the lot in this neighborhood, because one of the fallacies that we hear a lot when people want to sell us a house on a lot, if we determine that the house has to be torn down, that house no longer has a positive value. It doesn't have a zero value. It has a negative value. It has a negative value. It costs us money to get rid of the house, to get to a bare piece of land, so that we can build something new. And the argument that a lot of sellers have, and I completely understand where they're coming from, is, well, this house, the house itself has value, and you're only paying me the land value. Let's say the tax value on the land, when we look it up, and that's one of the ways to evaluate these deals, is what's the tax value of the land. They said, you're only paying me for the land and you're getting a house. I said, well, I'm not really getting a house. I'm paying $12,500 to get rid of a house that we can't use so we can build new. And just communication, building rapport, making sure we're on the same page with the seller and that they see things the way we see them, or see things the way they really are, which is, again, this whole video, this whole scenario is based on situations where the house has to be torn down and we're dealing with an infill lot. If you're interested in analysis of houses that we can fix and flip, we have other videos on that. But I hope this is helpful. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to spend another 30 seconds and I'm going to look at what I see a lot of the time that frustrates a lot of real estate wholesalers who are typically newer in the business and haven't done a lot of projects and have the same mindset as the seller that, well, it's a piece of land with a house, it has to have more value than that. But it simply doesn't. If we're running a business and we're trying to make a profit, I mean, if it's your dream lot and your dream house and you want to live there, you don't need a profit. You can eliminate the 46,000. Let's make that zero. So you want to live there, you can pay $63,000 for the lot. But if we're in business to make a profit, that is really not an absorbent profit. A 20% profit is really not a huge thing. So let's look at some other numbers. And this is, I run into a lot in some of the other markets that I work in, is let's say the average house size is 1,500 square feet. And in a lot of these neighborhoods, the value of the houses, they're selling for like $80 a square foot. So it's a $120,000 house. So if we were to tear that $120,000 house down, or what's left of it, and build another $120,000 value house at 1,500 square feet, it's going to cost us in today's dollars, $95 a square foot is about as cheap as I can build with any kind of quality at all. So in that scenario, and we can walk through the numbers, the construction cost is actually more than, in my experience, let's say we can build a house for $68 a square foot. I saw that recently. So that's about as cheap. I don't care if you build it yourself with your own hands. It's going to be hard to build a new house for less than $68 a square foot. Using vinyl siding, vinyl flooring, everything as inexpensively as possible. It's still $102,000 in construction costs. Demolition cost is $15,000. The cost of interest and fees and commissions to sell are about $17,000. So $134,500. Target profit, these are all negative. See the red? Those are all costs, costs. So the market value for that 1,500 square foot house at $80 a square foot is only $120. So our land acquisition cost, our land value, is somebody would have to pay us $41,460 to take the lot. So the point in making that ridiculous example is there are so many neighborhoods where infill development doesn't work well because of this. Turn that red just so we won't forget it. That is the key factor when we're analyzing infill land deals or infill tear down rebuild deals, is the price per square foot of the average house. And these are the houses that are selling, the comps. In flipping, we call it an ARV, the after repair value. The ARV has to be significantly higher than our construction cost to produce a profit. All right, I'm beating a dead horse. So if you have questions, if you have input, if you disagree with something that I'm sharing here, please correct me so I can get better. And I hope it's helpful. Thanks for watching.